Hey, it's Tim from the Marching Roundtable. Today I was on a webinar call with my friend Thomas trying to figure out why my picture was always blurry. And you'll see it's since been fixed, but it's on the recording I'm about to show you, I am a little bit blurry, so ignore that. But it's really interesting. Mark from Dynasty walked in and we met each other and we had a great conversation. I thought it might be interesting to share that with you. Dynasty, of course, is a legendary name in the world of drum corps, and I think it'll be interesting to, hopefully you'll enjoy hearing our conversation about my days marching and the bugle I played on, etc. So I hope you enjoy this.
Wait, are you seeing me?
Yes, I am. Tim, this is Mark Schafer. Hi. He's the president and owner of DEG Dynasty. How are you today?
Very cool. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Good.
I didn't fix my hair or anything. I feel I should tone down my hair
today also. Yes.
We're trying to help Tim out troubleshooting. He does Marching Roundtable podcast.
Oh.
So he's kind of like he's a voice in the activity. So
okay.
I'm kind of his go-to afternoon tech troubleshooter. No, not tech. That makes me sound. I stumble through things when he has problems.
Gotcha.
As best I can, so.
Well, he does better than I do, but that's not saying anything. So, Mark, how long have you been like doing the Dynasty?
Yeah. Well, I started working for the company in 1978 and ultimately became the president, but not the owner. And then in 1995, I bought the company. Now, at that point in time, we weren't making any percussion instruments at all. Strictly brass and accessories for all kinds of band instruments. And I think we were very strong in the bugle market when they used G bugles. Basically, Dynasty and Canstel kind of shared the market. Then when they went to B flat and F, also did very well. We started making drums in about 1996 or 7, and I had found a company that was manufacturing drums, doing OEM stuff. They didn't sell anything under their own brand. So they started making the product for us, and then in 1999 or 2000, I bought the company, and the same people still run the business, but they just wanted to make drums and not have to deal with accounting, all the other stuff involved in a business. So that's kind of, we were kind of the little guy, kind of shocked everybody when the Blue Devils came on board with percussion. And those kind of relationships change over time. Now, of course, we have Santa Clara, both groups there, as kind of our the ones that carry the banner, so to speak. And fortunately, they've both done well in percussion, especially the last few years.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. Tim, when you marched, what did you play?
I played French horn bugle. I marched Phantom Regiment. I'm pretty sure we were on Dynasty, weren't we?
Cool. Yes, you were. Yeah.
Yeah. I marched 80, 81, 82. Remember the first Spartacus?
Yes.
Nice.
Ah, okay. Well, it's interesting. It's kind of a funny story. So we were thinking about going in the bugle business. This was right about the time I started with the company. We had built some prototypes, and at that time, McCormick's was just dominant. Pretty much everybody played their equipment. And for Phantom, we made a elevated bell soprano. So instead of wrapping around and going parallel to the mouth pipe, it went up, like a Dizzy Gillespie trumpet.
I remember this.
Yeah, this is pretty funny. So at a rules congress, Larry was very tight with the folks who were running DCI, and he had a rule passed that the degrees of difference between the bell and the mouth pipe could only be like 6 degrees, which made this horn illegal. And we were just about, and I don't have any sour grapes about this. It's just a funny story. But we were just about to introduce that on the market, and all of a sudden we couldn't. So we got our bell back down to its normal position. And Phantom was the first group that used our instruments of anybody. And over time, we started with the soprano and the baritone, and then relatively quickly developed the other voices and everything.
So do you remember the French horn bugles? They're not around anymore.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, definitely. We actually made probably the one I'm sure that you played on, was, short and tall, so to speak. We made a long French horn at one time. I don't know if you ever saw one of those. It was like more the shape of a trumpet. And we made it, I can't think of the guy we made it for. He was in the Connecticut Hurricanes. He was kind of a legendary senior French horn player. And we put that in production for a while, and some senior corps bought them, but not DCI corps. They wanted the conventional shape. And we also made, for Jim Wren, a marching trombone I don't know if this was I think it was in G, or maybe it was after the switch to B flat and F, which he called the cellophone. And they used that only for like 1, maybe 2 years, and everybody ultimately went to whether it was bugles or B flat and F, trumpets, mellophones, baritones, euphoniums, and tubas, and all those other voices disappeared. We had an alto bugle, a flugelhorn bugle.
I played an alto in 1980.
Did you? Yeah,
I did. I played alto bugle. I did. That's how I got into the corps. They had an opening. And then the next year we went to French horn bugle. I was always so proud of the fact that we had all those French horn bugles. And I got to tell you, I lament that middle voice like that. I'm a middle voice guy. I'm a French horn player, so I like that deep, rich middle voice. It's like it's all high and low now. Like, where's all the middle voices? I hate that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I'm biased.
I mean, I understand that it's hard to play the French horn mouthpiece in the marching activity, and the French horns were, in order to end up sounding like a French horn, they had the double, like the full length. A mellophone is really half the length of what it should be, But that made them, I mean, you had to have the right kids to play on those because they were hard to play and required a lot, breath support, and because you were pushing that air through a really long instrument. It was basically the same length as a baritone, but with a much smaller bore. But yeah, I miss that as well, and I don't know why. It seems like if somebody, there are B-flat French horns, and still on the market. If some corps decided to try a section of those, they might, there might be benefit to that because it would give them that middle section sound that you talked about.
Yeah, I miss it. Of course, I'm a Phantom Regiment guy from way back with that sort of dark symphonic sound, and I just miss that all those mid voices are missing into my ears these days, it seems. Like I love the way the chords sound, but go back and listen to 1982, 1983 Regiment, and you hear all those French horn bugles and that deep sound. I mean, that's my era, I guess. But I loved it.
I understand why they went to B flat and F. I mean, it was an easier transition for potential members who were playing those instruments at school, high schools and colleges. But the key of G being a fifth lower, you had a darker sound than you have today. And the guys in the activity now are the arrangers and so forth. They're extremely talented, and they don't let it get out of hand in terms of being really bright sounding. But it is more like that than it was in the when they had things like French horn bugles, and the key of G being fifth lower.
Well, and the bores were bigger in those G horns, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we were able to get a little more power, a little more volume, right?
Yes. Yeah, the soprano bugles, most of them were 468 or 470, as well as the French horns. Nowadays, the 460, 463 is the trumpet bore, because with the shorter instrument, you need a little more resistance than you would get with a B-flat trumpet. I mean, that's a big bore on a B-flat trumpet. You got to be a horse to play that, you know.
Interesting.
Well,
it's interesting.
Where are you located?
I'm in Orlando, Florida.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, because I like the warm weather. I don't like the cold. I don't like the cold weather. And I have to get on a roller coaster. I grew up in Atlanta, actually, so I know it's weird that I ended up in Rockford. And I'm in the era where everybody that was in the regiment was basically living around Rockford. So I was an outlier in the day. I was way ahead of my time in traveling to the Corps. I loved, I guess.
Well, and Spirit was probably pretty big back right around that era. So did you have like?
That was
were you a rebel because you didn't go there?
Because I loved the Phantom Regiment more than life itself. And I mean, I heard them in Birmingham, Alabama in 1979 play Elsa's, and I was like, this is the only corps I can possibly imagine. And Spirit was a great corps, and I had a lot of friends in it, and at the top of the activity, but it's like I'm just one of those guys. I just fell in love with the regiment, and still to this day, you know, it's just, you know, my heart sings. But anyway, so it's so exciting. It's very cool to meet you, sir, because I'm, you know, obviously I played on your horns, and
that's really
your Dynasty is just, you know, it's legendary in our activity, so it's very cool.
Well, nice to meet you as well. Did you, was Martin McDaniel at Phantom then teaching? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that name for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah, it was back in the day, you know, John Brzali, Marty Hurley, and all that. You know, that was very exciting.
He was a character. You know? He used to, so we didn't have drum, you know, I didn't have that much contact with Marty other than I got to know him. And I remember, like, when I would usually be hanging around the brass staff, and the percussion staff was there as well when they would announce scores, you know, after a show. And he would just go off sometimes. Yeah. And he had quite salty language. Yeah.
Sure. Again, a different era.
Yes. Yeah.
That's such a lovely way to put that. I love that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those guys were, they were definitely personalities. You know, no doubt about it. And you know, I remember Marty always complained because he was like, you know, he always felt like, I don't want to say this, but my impression was he felt a little underappreciated because he's like, you know, I wrote drum parts to Cacciaturian. I had to completely make this up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he felt like people realized he was sort of, there were no snare drum parts in Cacciaturian for the most part. You know what I mean? Like, he was really inventing wheels as he was going, and I think he felt like people didn't, like, stop and think, he was doing, you know, he was really ahead of his time in a lot of ways.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Well, very nice to meet you. I have to run. Hopefully, do you go to DCI or?
I'm actually going to be in Indianapolis. Is it next weekend? Is it? Hopefully, well, not this weekend, but yeah. Are you going to be there?
My class is coming up. Well, it starts Monday. Yeah. Yeah. It seems like it came upon us very fast this year. I don't know why, but.
So are you going to be there?
Yeah, I'll be there Wednesday. Paul Rennick is going in the Hall of Fame, so I'm going to be there to see him, and then I'll probably be there Thursday, but I have to come back here on Friday, so maybe we'll see each other.
I will be wandering around doing interviews with my recorder and my camera, and you know, being like a media guy. I would love to meet you in person. So that definitely. Will you be like? Will you guys have a booth where I could sort of find you, or do I need you to sort of stalk you in the crowd or something?
Most of our time will be probably spent in the, what's the name of that park? West.
The Yeah, the warm up.
The warm-up area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have a booth, but we'll be out there. We'll be around the stadium.
Schmoozing.
Yeah.
Or sometimes with the pits by the stadium there. So.
Okay, well, I'll definitely would love to see
The
you
brass
guys.
guys all warm up in that same part. So.
We'll see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll run it. You're tough to miss. And I ran into you last year. We did a little interview. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's awesome to meet you. Thanks for talking to me.